there were three things that we would do to ourselves, ensure that we were relevant, modern and diverse. And then we said there were three things that we were very committed to making sure were real for the profession itself: relevant learning, engaged membership and insightful leadership. If we take ourselves first, you can probably see around me, actually one of our biggest things that were achieved in 2017 was, first of all, that we have agreed to sell the heritage building, and we have found good new space in 21 Lombard Street. So in 17 we've made some really good progress with getting everybody into a position that we can now implement agile working. So everyone has their own tablet or laptop, everyone can work from home as well as working in the office. We've been doing a review of our chartered status, which you'll be hearing quite a lot more about. Our membership numbers grow all the time, but the level of engagement with our membership is quite variable. We've had a lot of success with our Personal Finance Society, which focuses on the financial advice community, and now we're looking to replicate that for general insurance broking and also for claims professionals, because that's such a critical sector for consumers. One of the things that we were very keen to put right back at the fore of everything when we launched our manifesto was the fact that our Royal Charter is very clear that we exist to build public trust. The phrase in the Charter is secure and justify the confidence of the public. So one of the things we were very keen to find a way to do is to put some kind of measurement around public trust and what that means. And so we committed that we would produce a public trust index, and we spent quite a bit of time looking at what different bodies or associations or whatever had done in terms of measuring complex things like trust. And in the end, we felt that it's not a question of putting a simple number on it. What it's more about is interviewing a lot of consumers about what the elements are that affect their view. It was so interesting listening to some of the feedback and just laughing to yourself about how in some ways we over-engineer certain things which really are a hygiene factor as far as the consumer's concerned, but we spend a lot of time worrying about them and talking about them. And then we have these other quite big things which frankly we don't spend very much time on, and clearly are some very important levers for public trust. What this gives us is some real informed elements to talk to the sector about and then work out, how we can make things better. If you're a sector that deals with consumers, it's very important that you actually have a narrative with the consumer that they understand. The medical profession, things can go wrong in hospitals, things can happen to people, but there's a very strong dialogue there with the public, which is medical care is extremely important and doctors are very good people, and basically we have the National Health Service which will look after you whatever happens to you. We as the sector seem to have lost that narrative with the consumer, that most people do not have much financial resilience to the risks of life, and can be very easy, their whole lives can be knocked off course by things which will naturally happen along the way. But everyone's life is different, and the welfare state is there to provide a very thin layer of very basic protection for everybody, and therefore all the things that can happen in an individual's circumstances can be very different. We do research about people who are either seem to be excluded from insurance or are having trouble protecting themselves against the risks of life. It's beholden on us as a professional body to point those sectors out and then to suggest ways in which we can get to addressing those particular risks as well as just the general risks of life. So one of the core tenets of what a professional body does is obviously give people a badge, and it's a badge that we are very proud of, and it's also a badge which we make the public believe is a badge of professionalism, is a badge of trust. So it's very important, therefore, that if somebody has the chartered badge, that it really means something. But after 10 years, we've obviously had quite a lot of feedback on how that looks and feels. And one of the elements is it's quite heavily skewed at the moment towards qualification. And there's a feeling that people would like more emphasis on conduct. So when you become a member of the CII, you do sign up to a code of ethics, but we perhaps don't emphasise that enough as part of the chartered process. And then the other issue, which has become a major issue for financial services generally, is diversity and inclusion. And there's a feeling that if you're putting a badge out into the public, surely an element of that should be that these firms look and feel like the customer base that they're actually there to serve. Insurance, like everything else, and financial planning is on a journey. If you went back 200 years, insurance would be an extremely limited thing, probably only really life insurance or marine insurance. Today, you can almost buy insurance for everything, but not quite. So insuring futures is always about looking ahead and saying either what are the new risks which are coming up, so cyber is obviously the one everyone talks about, but just as importantly, where are the areas of exclusion which are still not being fully catered for by standard products in the or existing products in the market? There really is an issue that women's financial resilience, particularly at the end of their lives, is much less than men's. If we don't do something, the situation could be worse for younger women than it is for women at the moment. So it's pretty critical that rather than just wringing our hands over the research, we actually do something about it. So we've convened a market task force, which has got 15 major brand companies involved in it, and we're very lucky we have a support network pretty much from everybody else in the market as well. We're focusing on pensions because the pension deficit is actually one of the biggest issues for the position that women are in. We've divided the programme into a number of work streams, but the idea is to use this to set up a blueprint such that we can then use this methodology to approach any other areas in society where we can see that there is currently exclusion or lack of resilience. We've achieved some good things for this year. Next year, we've got two main areas of focus. Although we cover a very wide sector, there are a number of those areas where we don't have a high level of penetration. There's basically three areas, so direct-to-consumer personal lines, life and protection, and the London market, interestingly, even though we're on their doorstep. And then the other area is international. What do I mean by that? Well, we actually have 125,000 members at the moment, but about 20,000 of those are actually based overseas. And in essence, they're self-motivated people at the moment largely who are wanting to do an international qualification. And we obviously don't actually provide a lot of support to people around the world, even though we've got members in 150 countries. So we do want to up our game in terms of servicing that membership internationally.